Hello everyone. With due respect to all, I would like to share a concern on what I did not think anyone was allowed to share their opinions or scientific experiments or proofs. This concern is about the use of mobile phones. I have progressively tried to observe the changes in my own personality, thinking, attitude, behavior, expectations, and goals. Now, finally, as I stumbled upon a magazine review named The Everyday Device in Your Home Killing Hundreds Around the Globe on CEO magazine, published on 25th of September 2019. Reading the first few paragraphs, I thought this is just something that they want to sell as it has something in common with everyone. But in the later paragraphs, I read things that had the material and scientific experiments and proofs that instantly caught my attention in a totally unexpected way. I am now going to read the complete review. Please do not close the video until it is finished, as it may have some very important points that you too can relate with. The everyday device in your home killing hundreds around the globe. When you think of things that might kill you, it's unlikely that your phone springs to mind. We have bad news for you. Your smartphone is killing you. Perhaps because the Apple iPhone was only released in 2007, a lot of us have not yet grasped the full deleterious effects of the device and the many similar not so smartphones the now clunky seeming original spawned. Countless numbers of people have been killed by their smartphones already, and we are not talking about the tinfoil hat brigades concerned about the effects of 5G, Wi-Fi and phone signals in general on our brains. The most obvious example is all the people who are killed on our roads, not just because they were on once stupidly looking at their phones while driving. Australians now believe it is the main reason for our rising road toll, with 32% of drivers admitting to reading text messages while driving, according to the Community Attitudes of Safety Roads 2013 survey report, but because they ambled zombie-like into traffic while posting on Instagram. The number of pedestrians killed on US roads has risen by a staggering 51% since 2009. In 2017, pedestrian fatalities in Australia jumped by 20% in a year, with police blaming the stupidity of smartphones. Now my comments. If the rate has increased since 2009 to 51% just because of the use of smartphones, as they are acting like a zombie while doing the things they should be doing and looking at the tiny screens of their phones, it is likely that there is something that is so much addictive in the smartphones or in the contents on the smartphones or the apps that we are using on daily basis, that it has got our attention regardless of what situation we are in, regardless of what environment we are in, regardless of what things we are supposed to be doing, and focused on the things that are inside the smartphone screen. I'll read further. If you haven't noticed, the number of people who try to cross roads while ignoring the approach of big heavy vehicles in favor of their tiny screens, it's probably because you have been looking at your phone. The RACQ would like to see new laws to fine people who cross the road while staring at a device. We think that sort of offense is on its way. There is no doubt about it, spokesman Paul Turner said. Stand at an intersection in the CBD for half an hour and you will see 5 or 10 people just being saved or stopping themselves from walking out into traffic because they were looking down at their phone. When you tap them on the shoulder and they look up, it's though they have been in some sort of daze because they are so engrossed in their phone. That means, the focus is so much, the attention is so much into the phone that they do not understand, or they are not even aware of what kind of environment they are in, regardless of wherever they are. We teach our children to cross the roads safely, and I have been taught, my parents used to hold my hand and walk me through the road, and mostly we were taught in the schools as well that we should cross the roads only through zebra crossings or something like that. But understanding the things that are being said in this review, it is clearly mentioned that we are forgetting that the environment we are in and the place or situation we are in has nothing to do with the things that we are doing while we are walking or using smartphones. All right, so I'll go. I'll go ahead and complete the review. No doubt you are congratulating yourself for not being like that yourself. But be honest. What is your relationship with your phone like? And even if it's not getting you run over, how much harm is it doing to you? This is the main question. You and I may not be the people who are using the phones while walking on the roads. We are kind of the people probably who do not even walk as much as this is being talked about on the roads, maybe once in a while. So the next point is dopamine and cortisol. Have you, for example, felt what's known as phantom vibrations from your phone? That sensation where your body is sure it's detected a new message buzz, but you check and there is nothing there? The strange and concerning sensation is caused by the state of hypervigilance you have no doubt found yourself in from time to time when stressful, vital information is pouring into this now essential for life device, which is rarely more than a meter away from you. Now, this has happened and has been happening since the time I have been using the 3G signal smartphone, probably even before that, since 2011 or 12. While talking to somebody, while we are not using our smartphones, I have felt a sudden a feeling of that there is something on my phone, maybe a vibration, maybe a intuition, maybe some invisible, connection, because we are all electrically circuited brain, and we do get intuitions and flashes of insights while we are doing things. Now, especially when we pick up our smartphones and there is nothing on it, your friend or maybe your family member who was sitting with you may also say yes to the thing that they too have felt exactly same thing while you felt it. So there is something definitely in the air which causes our body to feel there is something on our smartphone. Sometimes the smartphone has it on the screen, some kind of notification or something, and sometimes it does not. So this is the point we are coming to now. The fact is, we are as a species becoming addicted to both the dopamine hits of satisfaction that our smartphones gives us hundreds of times a day, while being simultaneously assaulted by the dangerous levels of cortisol they send coursing through our bodies. The combination is affecting everything from the way we sleep to our attention span, our memory, our self-esteem, decision-making skills, and our physical health. You're probably aware that many apps and phones themselves are designed to be habit forming. Those likes on Facebook and Instagram are designed to trigger happy chemicals in our brains, much the way poker machines do, and thus to make us want to keep checking them endlessly. Now, this is a very common thing that you must have felt, because I too can relate it with as much as as much as you can relate it with. Wanting to post things on Facebook or Instagram is something that we have been wanting to do, we have been doing, and we are probably even addicted to it. Now the point is that our brain produces chemicals. The two chemicals which are mentioned here are dopamine and cortisol. I know a few more chemicals that are produced in our brains. The endorphins when we work out, or something that makes me happy, serotonin. Now these chemicals release give us a feeling, a memory, a feeling of satisfaction at times, and things that stay in our subconscious mind for a very, very long period of time. It affects our understanding, thinking, our paradigms, and a lot of things that generally people while doing will definitely not understand what is going on while they are just using a random application, because of the effects are so slowly assimilated in our habits, so slowly assimilated with our memory and understanding, and by the regular day-to-day use and repetition of all those things, that we do not understand that we have become so much connected and indulged in it that it is now a part of our personality, a part of our life, a part of our thinking process. I'm going to read it further now. No less an authority than Google noted in a report that mobile devices loaded with social media, email, and news apps create a consent or sense of obligation, generating unintended personal stress. Stress is one thing that I have personally felt when a video is not streaming on my phone. It may have stopped because of some reason. Now, back in the time when there was just 2G in our phones, it was really slow compared to what we have today, but we never had complaint because there was nothing better than that. The point is that we were not so much indulged in it. It is only after the introduction of 4G that we have become so much attached and also in sync with these particular apps. For whatever reason, there are a lot of things that we can talk about at this point, that these applications and the people who run these organizations want the data of people. They want to know, although You may have also felt that when you're talking to somebody, maybe you just said, I want to buy a purse, and then you check your phone, and on Instagram there is an ad of a purse, and it has nothing to do with the searches that you have been doing on the phone. How is that happening? That's a whole totally different concept or topic, I would say. Well, let's go ahead. According to a study by a tracking app called Moment, the average American spends 4 hours a day staring at their phone. Unfortunately, not all the information our screens give us is positive, of course. And when we are getting instead irate emails from colleagues, for example, or other bad news, our bodies release cortisol, our fight or flight hormone. Well, this is as obvious as it seems. I have no personal comments on that. Cortisol is designed to prime your body to react to physical threats such as bears or bullies. And it changes your body physically, upping your heart rate, freezing your adrenaline, and spiking your blood sugar. Well, that's a lot of changes in the body. Unfortunately, your body also responds with cortisol when you are being stressed emotionally, and smartphones can provide you with these moments whenever you are, multiple times per hour. Well, I'm just going to read this further. Your cortisol levels are elevated when your phone is in sight or nearby, or when you hear it or even think you hear it, says David Greenfield, the founder of the Center for Internet and Technology Addiction. It's a stress response and it feels unpleasant, and the body's natural response is to want to check the phone to make the stress go away. Checking the phone, of course, can provide more bad news, and thus you can get into a cycle that leaves you with chronically high levels of cortisol, and this can lead to all kinds of health issues including heart attacks, dementia, diabetes, and depression. Well, a person has the ability to take possession of their own minds and choose to allow the kinds of thoughts that are supposed to get into the subconscious mind of one. The thing that I'm coming to right now is that you may have control on what you want to listen from other people, what books you want to read, what you're interested in. You pick up certain things that you really want to excel in, that you want to plant the seeds in your mind, that you want them to grow, and you develop sort of understanding towards that particular subject. Coming to posts and apps like Instagram and Facebook, you do not have a control. Especially also I would comment on YouTube now, because earlier you were suggested in a different way for the videos that you want to watch and you should watch. Now you do not have as much control on the content. You are being fed continuously from these apps. Consider this, that our brain and everyone's brain has a common language of thinking in pictures. The words we speak bring a picture in our mind. The things we talk about makes a story in a picture in our mind. And that is what is saved inside a phone, inside the brain as a memory. You are being fed the pictures of anything XYZ from Instagram continuously, because you're scrolling down and down and down and down, and probably using Instagram for 4 hours, 5 hours. You can also check on Instagram how much time do you regularly spend on Instagram. So if you are being fed so much of random information, and maybe they are trying to feed you something in particular. I have looked at the aspect of bodybuilding. It was not so much popular back then. Now today everybody is talking about fitness. Fitness has nothing to do with bodybuilding. It actually has to do with the clarity of mind, first of all, and also how good you are at producing the energy, because energy is physical, from your body when it is necessary. Muscle building is a totally different concept and may have not a lot to do with fitness. Yoga is one thing, running exercise is one thing, cycling is a thing. Food habits are something that contributes a lot to fitness. If there is anything that you can understand and explain me why a lot of people nowadays, including girls, because this is something that is rising at a rapid speed, that boys and girls today, and even men and women, are being influenced by the pictures on Instagram to go to the gym, to get in a shape that they can relate to only looking at Instagram pictures. That's perfection for them. That is being fed continuously from Instagram, and it goes into our subconscious mind. It changes the habits that we have in our mind. It wants us to do something, and it brings in the action from our insides to do and to achieve something that we had seen for a very long time through repetition. Again and again, we have seen it so many times that now it has become a part of what we want to achieve now. Alright, so I'm not going to delve into it so much, but this is what I really think is a thing, something that you too can feel that it happens. Dr. Robert Lustig, author of The Hacking of the American Mind, recently told the New York Times that every chronic disease we know of is exacerbated by stress, and our phones are absolutely contributing to this. As bad as smartphones are for you, of course, you have only had it running your life for the past dozen years. Just think of what it's doing to your children and the entirety of the coming generations. Anyone over the age of 10 is already unable to imagine a world without smartphones. And as they grow into adolescence, they are likely to be gifted one of these dangerous yet vital devices by their own parents. I'm not going to talk about this because I think the next paragraph is exactly what it comprehends it much better than I am going to explain. This is like giving them cocaine or heroin. According to David Gillespie, the author of Teen Brain, Why Screens Are Making Your Teenager Depressed, Anxious, and Prone to Lifelong Addictive Illness, and How to Stop It Now. Well, this is a concern that is almost melting my inner soul that it is just impossible to imagine you and I, maybe who are born in the 90s, the early 90s, can think of the times that we had spent without the phones, and we remember our childhood in such a beautiful way that we now see a lot of posts, think a lot of thoughts related to that. We were we were lucky that we were not born in the age of technology, the technology that is being served to us now, because we would not have been able to live the actual life that we as humans are supposed to live, and create the actual memories, and understand the actual fundamentals of and things that have been taught by our parents. A child learns things from their atmosphere. Heredity is more important than atmosphere of one is more important than heredity. So understanding that point, who you are being surrounded by, you become the product of your environment. There is no doubt in that. You are a result, and you and your thinking and your personality is a result of the combination of the kind of people you have been surrounded by. Now today's children definitely are spending more time on their phones and lesser time with their parents. What environment are they in? What are they thinking? What is their point of view is going to be absolutely influenced by the things and the content on their smartphones. Next, teens' addiction and anxiety caused by smartphones. Gillespie's book is full of shocking insights and data which make perfect sense of the behavior. Of the behavior many young teens exhibit today, particularly if you are brave or foolhardy enough to attempt to take a device off one. He points out that in puberty, as the prefrontal cortex expands and the human body turns off a system called GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. Aminobutyric is one word. A kind of general purpose braking system that stops us from becoming addicted to things. I had no idea about it, what GABA was, and as it says, it is the hormone or chemical, I don't know what it is, but it helps us to develop a habit of not getting addicted to the things that we should not be addicted to at an early age. This is why the teen years are a terrible time to start drinking or smoking or even having sex. And Gillespie points out that society has realized this and had huge success in those areas. Yeah. Between 2007 and now, the rates of teenage pregnancy and alcohol and cigarette use by teens all dropped. They are all about half of what they were. It's a huge achievement, and I don't know why we are not talking about it, he says. The rates of anxiety and depression for teenagers should also be halving, but instead the rates of those things in teens have actually doubled over the same period of time. Now the indulgence of teenagers after the age since the year 2007, the rates in pregnancy, alcohol, cigarette use have decreased. So he says that there should be also a decrease in the teenage depression, anxiety, and behavior. Behavior should be better, but rather what has happened is it has doubled over the period of time. That tells us immediately that something is replacing those addictions, and what has replaced it is also addictive, as it has driven up mental illness in this life stage. The reason, according to Gillespie, is that we are now giving every adolescent device that can run simulations of addictive behavior all the time. As he points out, software, I was distracted because I was doing something and I was distracted because of a dumb message on my smartphone. As he points out, software for smartphones and apps are designed to be addictive, to have the same mesmeric effect that poker machines have on those who are susceptible, only across a wider swathe of society. There are millions of companies competing to be one of those 5 apps on your home screen that you click 100 or 1,000 times a day, and they want to find a way to get people to press that button by giving them a hit of dopamine every time they press it, he says. Teens are super susceptible, of course, but boys and girls are targeted in different ways. Young women, Gillespie's research reveals, are rewarded by the drug oxytocin when they are in a group of girls and that group approves them. They feel liked, and that gives them oxytocin, which is more powerful in girls than boys. A teenage girl is as sensitive as she will ever be to this, and that's why the creation of approval porn has been so successful, Gillespie adds. Until now, we have never been able to replicate this approval hit of having real people like you, but simulating that is what social media software does. All of the Facebooks, the Instagrams, they are all high-speed simulators of social approval, and girls really respond to that. Well, it has been proved. There's nothing I can say on this. Boys, however, are gripped by what Gillespie calls danger porn, because men are simulated by risk and danger, which is why gambling is so popular. It's that chance of losing and the relief of surviving, something that's rewarding for boys. It's also why they love roller coaster, he says. I had no idea about it, I'm just reading it for you. And a simulation of that is online gaming on your phone, the first-person shooter like Fortnite. Those games are all designed around the concept of danger porn. It's about survival and the relief of survival. Throw in the social aspect of being able to change to your peers while playing, and the mobility of phone-based games, and you have got a serious addiction in your hands. As Gillespie says, these devices were designed from day one by Steve Jobs and company to be beautiful, easy to use, and hard to give up. And knowing how addictive they would become, Jobs' family declared, now this is the point I was so shocked, and I still am in shock because of the statement that is in this article. Jobs famously declared that he wouldn't let his own children near them. The Jobs thing came out by accident in an interview. He was asked how long he let his kids play with iPads and so on. He wasn't expecting it and just blurted out that he wouldn't let his children have them. What's that saying? Don't get high on your own supplies? Gillespie laughs. It's as simple as that. The person who is selling the drugs does not do it. He makes the other people addictive of it, because if he starts doing it, it'll first of all decline his personal, capacity of earning. He may also lose the people who are going to be dependent on this because of his own behavior that will change. It's exactly the same thing. In drugs there are high, that's why it's called a high. When you feel high, and when it comes down, there is a downer. It's a term called downer, which is a difficult stage for any drug addict to come down from. If you have ever, or somebody around you has ever used any kind of heavily mind stimulating drugs, you might understand that when they were, if they ever stopped using it forever, if they became non-addictive to it, how difficult that time would have been, and how much willpower they would have used in order to get themselves detached from that thing. If I lose my phone right now, I do not know what I'm going to do. In this time of quarantine, I have no one around me. I do not live with my family. There is not one single teenager who is going to come outside to talk to me or meet me, who I can share anything with. It's more than a nightmare. Alright, so I'm going to read the rest of it. But that's become the trend in the Silicon Valley these days. The executives instruct their nannies not to let their kids anywhere near these devices. In Silicon Valley, if you do not know what Silicon Valley is, it's the place where most of these applications, these large companies like Instagram, Google, Facebook reside. This is the place where the biggest things of today's world have been manufactured. People have been given a lot of jobs and all those things in these areas. Regardless of what health effects you believe 5G networks might have in the coming years, it's clear that the devices we are already using, already addicted to, in fact, have had an enormous effect on society and mortality. And they have only been around for a little more than a decade. The device may yet prove to be a more potent example of humanity shooting itself in the foot than even the gun. Me personally, I'm not concerned with how possibly this can kill me, other than if I'm using this while I'm driving, walking on the road, or riding a motorcycle. But I'm really concerned about the effects it is creating and the long-term effects it has created in every single person's personality, mind, in my own, and probably yours as well. There is not one, it's hard to find one person who does not know how to use a 4G smartphone. I'm going to end this here. Think about it. What can we do about it? Thank you for listening.